Hello, family. This is Ruthie Gomez, and I want to bring you a thought that started with a song that we sing at ICB. There was another in the fire standing next to me. And this line, when we sing it, I often picture myself with Jesus standing next to me during any hard time that I'm going through. But the line comes from a story in the Bible where the fire was real. It was literal. The story is found in Daniel chapter 3. And it starts with an arrogant king who commanded all the people to bow and worship an incredibly large statue. The command was clear. When the music played, they were to bow. And if they didn't bow, they would be thrown into a fiery furnace. Well, there were 3 men of God in this kingdom with funny names, but a serious promise and commitment to bow before nothing but God. So when the music played, they did not bow. They were brought before the king. The king gave them another chance. He said, I'll play the music again, but if you don't bow, there's not any God that can save you. I love their response. It's in Daniel chapter 3, verse 16. We do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If we're thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to save us from it, and he will rescue us from your hand, O king. But even if he does not, we want you to know, O king, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you've set up. I feel like this fire can be representative of this coronavirus that we're all walking through. We're walking through this time, and sadly, the suffering of it has touched many of you watching. Some have been sick. Some have suffered the loss of someone you love. And we've prayed for many, and some have been healed and some haven't. And I don't really understand, nor can I explain how and why that happens. And I'm so sorry for the losses that have happened. But I want to be like these 3 men of God. And my prayer has been, God, you can save us from coronavirus, but even if you don't, I will worship you. I will worship you and only you. The story goes on to say that they refused a second time, and this time Nebuchadnezzar, the king, was furious. He asked the fire to be heated up 7 times hotter than it usually was. They tied up the men and threw them in the fire. The soldiers that threw them in fell back dead because the fire was so hot. And I want to pause here on the part where they were bound up, because I feel like some of us can relate to this as well. When we started to walk through the fire of COVID-19, many of us felt tied up by anxiety or bound by fear or uncertainty. They were bound up and they were thrown in the fire. But then that's when the miraculous part of this story happens. That Nebuchadnezzar stood to his feet in amazement, and he said, didn't we throw in 3 men to the fire? He asked his advisors standing around. They said, yes. He said, well, why are there 4? 4 men in the fire, unbound, unharmed, walking around. It was incredible. This is where the line comes from. There was another in the fire. And Nebuchadnezzar said, and the 4th one looks like the son of a god. Well, he didn't have the right words to say. He didn't know this wasn't just the son of a god. This was the son of God. There is another in the fire, standing next to me. Jesus, the Son of God, son and servant. He's standing right here next to me. And I just want you to picture right now that there is another in the fire standing right there next to you, right where you are. He's standing next to you right now. I want you to take a moment, whether it's right now pausing this video or sometime throughout the day, and I want you just to notice his presence with you. You're not alone. There's another in the fire. He's standing right next to you. Jesus, right there with you. So the men walked out of the fire unharmed. The Bible says they didn't even smell like smoke. It's just incredible. It's a miracle. Their hair wasn't singed. They weren't harmed. And my prayer for all of us during this time is that our heart and soul would not be scorched during this time, that we would not be singed or burned or wounded in our souls during this time. My prayer has been that God will save our souls and preserve us. But unharmed does not mean unchanged. Like Brandy mentioned several weeks ago, we don't want to leave this time unchanged. So I want to point out what was burned up in the fire. Even though their hair wasn't even singed, they didn't even smell like smoke, the ropes that had them bound were completely burned. And that's also been my prayer during this time. God, burn away the ropes of anxiety, burn away the fear, burn away the selfishness, burn away the impurities, burn away self-pity, burn away pride, whatever has had us tied up and bound. Lord, burn that away so that we can be free and walk unbound. And it sounds like it's not intuitive that when we're in the middle of the fire, this could happen, but He can. He can do it. There's another in the fire, and He's with you right now. God bless you.